It's unusual for filmmakers to approach actors and also filmmakers yourselves, not with a script, but with a performance. And so I wanted to ask you what that was like in terms of seeing Madeleine and Dusty perform the characters that you play in the film, and how much of that translated in your performances.
I would say they mostly performed a storytelling. They didn't really step in, per se, to, like, embodying Diana or Homer, the characters. But what they did do was perform, almost as though in prose, the story. And they did kind of move their bodies around the kitchen a little bit as well. But they just walked us through the experience of being an audience member watching the movie, experiencing the misdirections and mysteries in real time, and revealing the twists and turns of the movie in real time. So they more so gave us a simulation of the emotional ride than actually stepping into Homer and Diana. And that was awesome. It was really cool to see directors who so clearly understood the emotional roller coaster that they were planning on taking people on and could guide us with their own voice through that experience.
When you're immersing yourself in a location, how important is that location to your performances?
Well, in this case, like, what comes to mind is the house was such a unique location in this filming experience. It had stories of its own, and someone who lived there who was just quite a character and was born in the house and had lived in the house since his parents have died, and all of this. So it's huge, like, you're a person in context, and there's no real way to compartmentalize away from that. So it all seeps in big time.
Does working somewhere like in rural Ontario change how you feel about the performance or the location that you're working in compared to, say, shooting in the city?
I think the biggest difference is the isolation from the rest of your family and friends. Like, in this case, it was us, the other actors, the crew in the fall, so it was kind of turning cold. You didn't really want to lounge outside either. There was one day when at the very end of the shoot, we came back to Toronto, and we had a couple of days here, but before that, there had been one day when I needed to come downtown to help a friend with something, and it felt psychedelic to me coming downtown, because you get so immersed in the psychological space of a shoot, especially when you're out of town in Owen Sound or something like that, as we were in this case. Coming back into the city and remembering that there is this whole other life that is your life that still exists, that you've more or less totally forgotten about because you're just totally underwater with the shoot.
I've been thinking a lot about this movie and how to talk to you about it, because Violation was such a visceral experience, and actually there is a piece of sound design in the film of retching that reminded me of that movie. When you're approaching your next project, how similar or different are you thinking about what it's going to be tonally versus your last project? And also, the question I know that you've talked a lot about, for yourselves, is that what goes into sustaining a relationship long term. When did that question start to permeate into the narrative?
Yeah, that's interesting. Violation really was born out of Madeleine and I having a shared personal traumas in our past, and it was really important for us to try to, express ourselves in an authentic way.
Purge that trauma.
Purge it.
And
but,
then let it go.
You're making a film that you don't really want to watch more than once, but we were forced to watch it 100 times, and that was a really challenging experience. So we knew when we finished that we wanted to do something that was completely the opposite of that in every possible way.
We wanted to make something about love, because we really fell in love when we were making Violation, and we wanted to make something that was rewatchable, but that still kind of had our twisted minds and sensibilities.
I feel like if we were a band, the way I would how I would compare myself as a filmmaker to an artist is every album is its own feel, and it's its own idea and really great musicians. Every album like can stand alone, but then when you see a collection of albums, there's like some voice there that's really unique and special. And like I think that's all we're striving to do, is like every film hopefully will be different from the last one, but you'll see something in it that you will see us there. So.
Well, I thought of a couple establishing shots as well. Like there's a maze specifically that I thought about you guys in terms of how you play with the camera. And the movie is very playful, so I hope that you got to enjoy watching it 100 times in comparison to Violation. But another thing, I remember interviewing you for that movie, and you talked about possession being an influence in terms of how that movie continually evolves. How important is it for you as filmmakers to continually discover the movie as you're making it, and what changes did you start to notice as you were shooting it to post-production? Because another part that I find fascinating, even talking to Grace and Ben, is that you acted their roles to them before even showing them a script.
Oh yeah, that was fun and wild. We did a 2-hour dinner where we just presented the movie. I think we're huge proponents of like the thing that you are creating is alive, and we're parents to it. So good parenting is allowing your child to be what it wants to be. You have an idea of who you think your child is, but you don't really know. And you're there to kind of foster, support it, and let it grow. So I think what we discovered while making it was far stranger and weirder than we realized. And we kind of knew that instantly. Like we went into post, we're like, oh, this is weird. We have to lean into the weird because that is what this movie wants to be. And that playful energy came through more in post-production as a realization of what it was that we were creating.
Yeah, I think we really just finding what the tone was telling us it was in post, and we just went with it. And as soon as we went with it, it was so much fun. And I think that's where we found a lot of the strange musical choices that we think really work and make it what it is.
Mentioning possession, I know you also have referenced before Ken Russell and even Nicholas Roeg. Within those movies, are you looking at performances in terms of movement and style? Because you've also talked before about how movies like that really don't get made within genre filmmaking. And I would even be curious to know how you feel about Honey Bunch being placed in Centerpiece, because it's such a unique experience that feels hard to define into one category.
I think it's right that it was placed in Centerpiece because it's not like Don't Look Now, which is also obviously a huge influence, and I think Nick Roeg's films on this were really informative because they don't want to be just one thing. And you can't pinpoint exactly what Don't Look Now is. And it's the same with Walkabout or like a lot of his films you just can't really place. So I think that's why Centerpiece is right, because it's gothic, it's horror, but it's also drama, it's also part strange comedy.
Yeah, we're really trepidatious of like watching a movie over and over and over in an analytical way where we're like really extracting and deconstructing a shot to try to replicate it. Instead, we'll watch a lot of work from that era that inspire us, and it just sort of washes over us and then informs some of the choices that we'll make. And then if we get some resistance from someone or someone who's not so sure, then we can point to some examples where, hey, look, that was very successful and that's achieved the thing that we were going for. And so that becomes useful in that way.
There's a feeling right now as well, I think, where tone is becoming quite rigid, specifically I think in North American cinema, where if it doesn't feel the exact same tone across the whole film, there's something off or there's something not quite right. And when you look back at films like Don't Look Now, like The Wicker Man, even older films like The Innocents, these are just things we were watching at the time, The Sorcerer, there isn't this permeating one tone. There's just like life, there's moments of tragedy, and then right after there's a moment of comedy, and then there's something weird and something horrific. And we wanted to make a film that is that kind of reflection of what life feels like.
But what makes those films so successful is the unity of the variations of those feelings, and
it's still cohesive.
It's cohesive, and that's sort of like ineffable how you achieve that. It's like that's something you're trying to. It feels very mystical.